Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. We are the Mile High Property Brothers. Today, another fun one. We'll be back in Littleton. As you can see, we have not changed since the last video, but this time we will be talking about your pros and cons of Littleton.
All right, let's check it out. What's up, guys? I'm Schmidt. This is my partner, Will Grimes. And if it's your first time checking out our channel, you guys are gonna want to subscribe. I know every YouTuber says this, but for real, subscribe. We're dropping like 3 videos a week telling you everything there is to know about moving to Denver and the entire Colorado state area, really.
100%. And we are licensed brokers here in the state of Colorado, which means as much as we love making these videos, we would love more to help you with those real estate needs. So that number that's popping up below. We are the guys who answer the phone calls, text messages, and those emails. So we'd love to help you out. But with that being said, let's get right into it. Let's talk Littleton again. Let's talk pros and cons this time, and at least give you guys a little bit of context as far as like, hey, would this be a good spot for you or not?
We're positive dudes. Let's start off with the pro, huh?
He's forgetting he's a jerk to me on the last video, right before the holidays.
Big jerk.
Now he's a positive guy.
Yeah,
I'll take it. I'm gonna take what I can get with this guy.
That's right. That's right.
He's a closet bull, if you guys don't know. Like, this dude is not cool to me off this camera.
Right.
It puts the lotion on. You have no idea what kind of hell I can bring you.
Digressing, we're gonna get into a pro. I'll start it off
right.
this time. We'll be talking about our first pro being your nightlife in suburbia. Yes, that is a thing. You don't always have to go downtown or in the Denver Tech Center. Matter of fact, a lot of suburban areas out here in Colorado tend to have some cool vibes, right? Like, obviously we've talked about Southeast Aurora before. Southlands Mall has some cool pubs and little breweries and little cool restaurants. Here in Littleton, you've got Old Town Littleton, which is great. You've got Tavern, you've got View House, you've got some other beer pubs in the area. Like, Littleton overall is just super big on breweries. Really cool time, and you don't necessarily have to go anywhere. You're 8 minutes from it, depending on what part of the neighborhood you live in.
Yeah, Brackenridge Brewery, another good one, worth noting there.
Yep.
But bottom line, just going downtown Littleton, guys, there are so many restaurants and bars and fun things to do for date night and with the family. There's never a shortage of things to do in downtown Littleton. And you're only 20 minutes from Denver. So let's say you do want to go downtown, you're only 20 minutes. And with a light rail stop being right here in downtown Littleton, man, if you want to do that, that works as well.
Yeah, if you're going to a Nuggets game, if you're going to a Broncos game, if you're going downtown for a concert, whatever it may be, and you're drinking and you're having fun, no, you don't have to drive. I mean, obviously we've got Uber nowadays, right? And then you've got Lyft and the other one. But if you want to use a public transportation, you can have that. Or even if you do Uber or Lyft, because it is close proximity, it's not that much of a bill. Versus like if you're living in Elizabeth, where this guy is at.
That's right.
It's like a month. It's like a month worth of income trying to take a. I don't even know if Lyft has a map out to Elizabeth, right? Like, it stops at like the backside of Parker, then you just have to walk the rest of the way, or that's where you put your horse. I don't know. Either way, yes, proximity-wise, in addition to the nightlife you're gonna have here, or just I don't want to call it nightlife. Maybe it's weekend life, whatever it is. It's just your recreational time. The atmospherics of Littleton is, even though you've got a really cool suburban area, you've got some of that here and in close proximity to Denver. Let's keep it going with positives, and we'll get to our perceived negatives. But the second positive is going to be your school districts overall. The rating here is an A+. It's in the top 20 nationally for security and safety, which is also super cool, but definitely a plus if you're a parent.
It is huge. And guys, Littleton school districts, for whatever reason, like, they're rated really, really well, but it's just not talked about a whole lot out here. It's one of those places where people start exploring Littleton, and then they look and they're like, oh, it also happens to have A+ rated schools. So that is a huge selling point. Whether you have kids or not, it is a huge factor that you should be considering.
Yeah, maybe Littleton's just like that quiet entrepreneur that just crushes and doesn't have to say anything about it. And like, you've got Cherry Creek schools that's been so talked about. And I will say this: I think sometimes you hear about some schools in Douglas County, or you hear about some schools in Cherry Creek District because of some of the high schools and their accomplishments in athletic, like in sports, right? So you've got a couple of schools in Southeast Aurora that are state champions in football, baseball, girls volleyball, basketball, and I think that gets a lot of attention. So then it puts eyes on the district, and you also hear like, oh, it's also a great district academically. Littleton, great, and I'm not dissing on any high schools or anything out here. I just wonder like where the attention has gone and why it's gone. But either way, the only thing that matters is top 20 in the nation for safety and security. A+ overall rating academically, and through every other category that they grade. Like, sounds like parents are satisfied and appreciative of what that is. And like, man, at the end of the day, when you're a parent, that's the most thing that matters, is where those ratings stand.
All right, our final pro, there are many, many more, but just one that we thought is worth noting, is that Littleton has a very, very good blend of older homes built in the 1940s and 50s.
Yep.
Closer to downtown, that's where you're going to find most of those. But then as you head out west, there are a lot of new builds and still new build developments that are popping up. So if you're looking for a good blend of new and old homes, it's really good because you're not moving to an area where maybe it's all new build homes and it's just there's not mature trees, there's not a whole lot of character quite yet. You're getting a little bit of everything out here in Littleton.
100%. And with that being said, perfect timing. You can hear that truck that's behind us because you've got a great blend of old and newer developments that are out here. One con we're going to start with is, yes, you can hear some of these tractors and some of the development that's happening depending on the neighborhood you're in and the proximity you are to that new development. These next couple of years, you'll have some of those going on, and yes, you can kind of hear it. Overall, because Littleton is so established, you don't have a ton of like dirt roads and like super underdevelopment like out here in Wild Plum. You've got your blacktop roads and everything already established, so you do see some tractors driving around. You do hear them in the background. You can kind of see them building some homes off to the side. Not terribly inconvenient, but something to consider.
And that is an important factor. If you guys are ever shopping new builds, make sure that you're having your agents, aka Will and Eli, find out what phase.
We're gonna find out.
That's right.
We're gonna take it out of them.
Find out what phase they're in of developing. So here in Wild Plum, they're at 90%, right? So meaning they've sold or built 90% of homes. So at most, they're gonna be building here maybe 1 or 2 years, probably not even 2 years, and then it's done and it's not a construction zone anymore.
Correct.
So if you're moving into a place where you're in the very first phase, not that you're going to be around a construction zone for the next 10 years, because once your block is done, the sounds go away, but it is definitely something to consider.
Now, with that being said, something to consider if you are going to be super early in on one of those newer developments with the appreciation that Colorado has. When you're super early in that brand new development, yes, you might have to put up a little bit more with some of the development, but you're also on the leading side of like being the owner of all of that equity over the next 5, 6, 8 years, right? Which is really cool. Not that if you're on the back half of a development that you're not going to have equity. Of course you are, but those original owners are just going to have a little bit more as far as like the first house being built versus the last house being built in a development. Overall, they're both going to win. They're both having appreciation. Something to consider. And it's hey, if you're going to put up a little development, you should get a little bit more equity out of it. Like, cool, something to consider. And obviously, being a super hot market out here, a lot of that's going to go into, hey, I'm glad those are both positives, because depending on where you're looking and where you have an opportunity to buy a home, not necessarily going to have pick of the litter, but if you can get into a neighborhood, even if it's 90%, it's still early on in Colorado's birth as a whole. Things to consider.
Another con. I'm feeling a little negative today. There are some floodplains out here.
Yes, we talked about it before. It's not huge, but these floodplains, flood zones, for what I like to call them, you just have to consider those financially, right? So the likelihood of anything flooding out here is super rare. We have not had a flood. I can't remember. It's got to be at least 8 years ago. The last time we had one where it flooded a little bit.
Yeah,
like a real flood.
Real flood out here.
It's been a long time.
Man, probably 50 years or something.
It's been a long time. Do you still get like hard rains out here and there? Yes. Is this something you consider? Yes. More importantly than, hey, oh my gosh, is it going to flood this year? Probably not. More importantly, though, whether it does or not, you have to carry a certain type of insurance on your home if it is one of those floodplains. And depending on the elevation of how low or how high and close you are to a floodplain is where insurance companies consider how much you're going to have to pay, right? And like that's going to be mandatory to hold your loan and to have that home. And it's like, hey, if we're going to be spending $400 extra a month on that type of insurance, what type of, that's like a $50,000, $75,000 more expensive home that's not in a flood zone, and that money could be going toward your mortgage, not flood insurance that you never have equity on, that never builds anything for anything, right? Something to consider. Definitely look at those things prior to you guys falling in love with the home. They're not huge floodplains out here, but they are something to consider, and you don't want to find yourself in that, especially if you're not prepared or if you don't choose to carry that type of insurance.
Yeah, now, and one more point to that, the homes that are in flood zones are very, very, very minimal. Like literally there's hardly any. When you come across one, it's extremely rare, but it needs to be addressed. But here's the interesting thing about floodplains and how they're developed. Just so you guys don't get freaked out. If there was a flood in 1920s, right? And since then, they've put canals and dams and things like that and infrastructure in place to mitigate any potential water. Because it flooded in 1920, they still need to have that area listed as a floodplain for years and years and
even
years
though
and
you've
years and
had
years.
all of these contingencies,
Yes.
protect it, and it will probably never happen again. It's a money thing. It's an insurance thing. Like,
yeah,
go
something.
figure. Either way, regardless
Yeah.
of why it is the way it is, what's important is just identifying which ones are those and making sure we protect you guys. All right, guys, our final one, we've talked about it before, but we'll be speaking about it again. We're pushing it on whether it's a con or not. A lot of these are subjective to you guys as buyers, but it's going to be your weather. You are closer to the mountains, so as far as like your snowstorms and wind gusts tend to be a little bit heavier out here versus some other areas that you guys could be purchasing. Is that bad? We have more sunny days in Florida out here. I say that almost every single video. So whether it snows and you get that wind, typically within a couple of days, the sun is back out, it's melting, it's going away. So it's not terrible. It's just something to consider. It is nice to be close to the mountains if you guys want to commute there and enjoy the mountains. But hey, your day-to-day life, you might just get a little bit more pepper on that snowstorm than maybe some of these other areas.
Yeah, and even still, like, out east in Elizabeth, like, same thing out there for different reasons because it's more in the plains and you don't have as much like protection, so you do get more winds. So it's one of those things, like, it's a small factor. It is a factor. It's a small factor, but by no means would I ever let that, make you think that, like, hey, you're getting 10 feet out here in Littleton and 1 foot in Denver.
And this is all subjective, guys, to whether it's a con for you or not. Like, if these 3 cons that we've mentioned today are the only cons and we're really trying to find something to give you guys to consider, overall, man, grand scheme of things, like your travel to Denver, amazing. You've got Park Meadows Mall not too far. That's amazing. You've got great brand new neighborhoods that are getting built. You've got great just atmospherics of a nightlife or a weekend life and going and enjoying a beer and a football game or whatever you like. The school districts out here, like, the list of pros goes on and on and on and on. That's definitely, in my opinion, outweighs any con. However, another con could be like, well, hey, Will, I work on the, northeast side of Denver. Like, so that might be a little bit of a commute. This might not be the best spot for you. But again, that could be a huge con for you personally, yet not for anyone else, right? So a lot of these are just subjective to you guys personally as consumers. We're just doing our best to try to give you guys some context as far as like where to start your thought process and what to look for. But overall, great place if you're thinking about it. If you haven't thought about it and you're thinking about it now, definitely turn that stone. You should also be thinking about us because we are licensed brokers here in the state of Colorado. And yes, as much as we love making these videos, we would love more to help you guys with your real estate needs. So that number that's popping back up below, we are the guys who answer the phone calls, text messages, and those emails. So if we can help you, we would love to do so.
That's right.
But until then, hope you guys have been enjoying your holidays. Hope you guys are enjoying your families. And we will see you guys on the next video.
All right. Talk to you later, guys.
See you guys.